G'day ladies and gents, and welcome to IL-2 Great Battles, and this is IL-2 Career Mode. I did say that I was going to start one of these, and I have chosen to start off a Soviet pilot flying the I-16 during the Battle of Moscow and see how far we can actually get through. Now, originally I did actually have planned, and my takeoff here was a little rocky, but I got it under control. I did originally have it planned to show the entire creation of a campaign in this first one, until I recorded it off and realised it was 25 minutes long on its own before I ever got in a plane. So I can still go through with that if you guys would like. Just let me know in the comment section down below. I have no problem starting up another career to show that off, but otherwise we're just going to start off here with the first flight and then go straight into what is the campaign menu, showing how the campaign actually functions from within. So anyways, I guess for the moment we will start with going over where we're at, what time it is, and who our pilot is that we're playing for this particular career. So it is the 9th of October 1941. We are playing from the very start of the IL-2 Battle of Moscow campaign, which starts with Operation Typhoon. German forces are currently heading in towards the city of Moscow, and they are rapidly pushing Russian forces back. The Russians are doing everything they can to try and slow this down, but they are just not holding the ground at this point. Now, as this is a career mode, of course, we have a pilot. Now, for the most part, I've let the game auto-gen the pilot that I'm going to be flying out, so this is what we come up with. We are flying as Junior Lieutenant Rusin Silin. Young Mr. Silin was born on the 24th of the 10th, 1920, which makes him 20 years old and turning 21 in just 14 days. I wonder if he'll live long enough to actually see that birthday. Now, we've been assigned to the 495th IAP PVO at Rusev Airfield in the northern part of the Battle of Moscow campaign map. Now, this is an area that is actually going to be rather interesting very quickly, as German forces in Operation Typhoon are going to overrun this runway at some point in the very near future. So it'll be interesting to see how the game actually handles that. Now, the 195th Squadron is rather interesting, as the 195th flies the I-16, which, as you can see, we're flying out now, but they also fly out the MiG-III. Now, as it currently stands, I do not have the option of selecting a MiG-III to fly out for any missions or being assigned with one, but the fact that the squadron does fly out both means there is a potential that I could wind up within that aircraft at some point. But still, all shit kickers have to start at the bottom, so the I-16 is an appropriate platform to be flying out to begin with. Now, our mission for today, and it is the only mission that we have been assigned for the day. We're not rostered on to fly any other flights at this time, so unless there's an intercept, we won't be sent out. But our mission is to perform air defense operations over a river crossing down near the border between German and Soviet forces. Now, running I-16s against potential Bf-109 F4s may sound a little bit silly, but we have not been assigned alone. We are the secondary squadron. We are flying in support of 34th Squadron, which flies out of exactly the same runway we do, but they are equipped exclusively with MiG-3s. Their primary defense, we're just there to make sure nothing else gets through. Now, we are in a 3-ship for today's patrol, so 3 aircraft in total, and being the new guy, we are of course in the 3rd plane. The lead aircraft is Agaton Kotov. He is our squadron commander and a certified ace. He's leading the flight with Igor Shute, just a lieutenant with nothing particularly notable about him, flying as his second. Takeoff you saw was perfectly fine, although the I-16 was a little twitchy, which is something that I should have expected, but I didn't. Smooth fly out, playing follow the leader from there to get to the target zone, which we're now at. We're actually a little bit further out with the river crossing just behind us, and lead has spotted a number of aircraft, and I've only just clued onto them myself. So beginning the break off and starting the engagement. So, as we move in, there is a couple of things to note about the AI in the career mode. The AI isn't just one difficulty level across the board. In career mode, in an attempt to try and simulate the realistic competencies of a real-life squadron of pilots, there is a variation in the quality of the AI. So you'll generally run into, and you'll notice if you're flying this with markers on, a lot of, let's call them shit-tier AI. These are your unqualified pilots that have had very few flight hours, barely know how to function in their side of their machines. Essentially the lowest level of training required in order to put a bum in the seat of an aircraft, and you'll encounter a lot of these. This isn't to make the game easier, this is because in reality this is what most pilots are like. Despite the popular belief of, every pilot was an ace and all the kills and that you often get out of World War II enthusiasts, if you actually look at the numbers, the vast majority of pilots in World War II never shot anybody down. Hell, the vast majority of the pilots that died in World War II never squeezed the trigger in anger. They died before they had a chance to even fire their guns. But anyways, that is the basic level of AI you're going to encounter, but it does work up from there. There are higher difficulty level AIs that will be mixed amongst those, and then there are your named players. Your named players, or your named pilots, are often pilots that are either aces themselves, or they are squadron leaders for the various runways and squadrons that function on the map. They're generally pretty kick-ass in regards to AI. If you encounter one of those, you will notice immediately that this plane is significantly more difficult to deal with if it doesn't just outright take your ass down. Now, I play these campaigns on Iron Man mode, so if anything happens in a mission, it is a permanent change. There is no redoing a mission in order to try and improve your odds, and if you get shot down behind enemy lines and you get captured, that's the end of your career, or if you get killed, exactly the same thing. Due to the quality and the difficulty that some of these aces can actually get up to, have never actually successfully managed to get a pilot from the start to the end of the Stalingrad campaign without being wiped out at some point. But it's also one of those things that keeps the campaign extremely fresh, especially if you're going to be playing through it several times over, because you're never entirely sure what you're going to encounter. You have no idea when you take off whether or not this is going to be a milk run mission, or whether or not you're about to run into multiple named aces that are going to wipe out your squadron and send you home crying. Or even worse, dead. And speaking of dead, that is my first kill of the campaign, BF-109, F4 taken down. Wasn't a particularly difficult one, it was just a turner, so probably nothing particularly special about the pilot. But hey, I'll definitely take that for my first day, considering I'm flying an I-16. Nothing to be ashamed about with that kill at all. Now, as I bring the aircraft around, looking to try and get back into the fight, although the fight is not all that far away, the MiG-3s and the I-16s have done one hell of a job chewing up this flight of 5 109 F4s that came cruising through the area, so there isn't really a whole lot of targets here to pick from, but we're going to go in and try and find one anyway. Now, as I was saying, it's not just the AI that randomizes to make the flight itself rather interesting, it's the world as well. In too many games, you'll find that it is an isolation. Say your squadron, or you individually as a pilot, is going to fight the entirety of the strength of the Luftwaffe on their own, and that is how the campaign is going to play out. You can actually see that in Cold Waters at the moment. If you've watched any of those videos, it is just my Seawolf alone versus the entirety of China. Now, doing it that way, of course, doesn't mean you can't have a good campaign. In fact, I'm quite enjoying the Cold Waters campaign. However, the campaign can be improved drastically simply by adding more life to it, which is exactly what you see here. When you first create your character, you get the option between choosing the aircraft you want to fly or directly selecting the squadron you'd like to fly with. Now, regardless of which squadron you pick, all other active squadrons that existed during your time frame will be live and will be running their own missions with their own critical successes or failures at all times while you're flying. So it's entirely possible when transiting between point A and point B, going for a fly to get to a mission, that you can come across a dogfight between German and Russian forces that has absolutely nothing to do with anything you were doing in the map at that point. Nothing to do with your mission objective, nothing to do with trying to disrupt your mission. You just happen to have flown over a fight that's happening at the wrong place at exactly the right time. And unfortunately, after expending the last of my cannon ammunition and trying to take that bird, one of the other I-16s dropped in and took him out. So, no kill for me there, but he was pretty much the last aircraft left over this patrol zone. So we just stuck ourselves into an orbit at this point, circling over until we got confirmation that the river crossing just down there on screen at the moment was actually clear and we could bugger off back to the runway. But that wasn't where the shooting ended. So we're about halfway home at this point and flight lead has just broken off and I've spotted a number of targets ahead. According to the radio messages that were popping up at this moment, the hostile aircraft were Bf-109s and they had likely just shot down a number of IL-2s that were either on their way out to hit targets on the front line or were trying to return. In either case, they are over Russian-controlled territory, and we weren't just about to let them leave. Now, I'm only down to MGs at this point in time, no cannon left in the aircraft at all, and I'm actually pretty low on MG ammunition as well, but we do have a numbers advantage. There are 3 I-16s still up, including myself, and we have at least 3 MiG-3s for us, and I think there is only 2 109s in total here. Now, my first shot was actually pretty good, went straight into the left wing and popped the radiator circuit, so the aircraft is pissing coolant all over the skies. One of my second bursts must have ripped a hole through the rear of the fuselage and punctured a hole in the fuel tank, so you can see the slightly greeny coloured fuel smoke coupled with the white smoke from the coolant from the radiator. Now, that is a really nasty mix, considering this 109 is currently behind Soviet lines and has quite a flight to be able to get back to its own runway. If we don't shoot it down, the pilot is likely to manage to get back into German territory without too much of a problem, but whether or not the plane will actually survive long enough to make it home is entirely a different question. And it is something that we are going to find out, because at this point, I have just ran out of MG. My shots there towards the end were a little bit wild. I am actually going to say I was on tilt just a little bit there. I knew I was running out of ammunition. I knew he was right there and I could have finished him off. And as a result, I ended up shooting like shit. So anyways, once the aircraft was out of fuel, I ended up just forming up with the next set of aircraft that were heading back towards my runway and flying the way back. Nothing particularly interesting to report about the landing itself. I was probably a little heavy on the touchdown and I bounced a little bit, but the I-16 has a habit of doing that. So results for this particular engagement was a successful completion of the mission, and the squadron itself got 3 kills in total. I managed to shoot down 2 aircraft, first being the 109 from the first engagement, which I took its wing cleanly off. The second was the 109 that I holed with just MG. Even though I was unable to finish it off, the kill was still awarded to me after the aircraft exited the area and had its engine fail and crashed. So I still got the kill there. The other kill went to the squadron commander. We also got a couple of medals here. We got the Medal for Courage early for our kills, a second medal which was the Medal for Battle Merit early, and as is standard we also received 1,000 rubles pay bonus for each aircraft that we shot down, so 2,000 rubles in total. And as we've completed our first mission with the squadron, we received our aviation badge. Now, the only other thing to happen during the day is that incoming planes were spotted over an important area. Now, what this does is generates an intercept mission for your squadron. However, in our case, we didn't end up flying a second mission, as I was not assigned to the intercept team. So the squadron ran a second mission on its own, and I went off to fill out my journal or something along those lines. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching. As always, remember to check the video description down below for links to my social media, links to my Twitch, and links to my Patreon if you would like to help support the channel. And as always, remember to click that like button, share and subscribe if you would like to see more, and to click the little bell icon to make sure you will always receive notifications when something new comes up on the channel. Yeah, I think we got everything. Alright. Fly smart, fly safe, and I will catch you in the skies.